Hello, it's Keith here. We'll be going live in just a few moments. Before that, I'd like to just describe what we'll be doing over the next couple of days. So today's going to obviously be a assembly programming stream. I'm going to be playing with PDP11 on a Russian machine known as the UKNC. This isn't a machine I'm very familiar with, so it will be a bit of a clumsy stream, shall I say. I have no idea what's going to come from it, but it should be interesting at least. Tomorrow I'll also be doing a game playing stream. I'm thinking probably the Famicom still, but I'm not quite sure. So in that one it's just going to be more casual, just playing some games, but I'll still be trying to chat about technical things and programming where I can. So if that kind of thing interests you, please join for that. That stream's a little bit later in the afternoon Japan time at 6 o'clock, so it's kind of the opposite side of the day depending on your time zone. So if that's of interest to you and you can make it, please join for that. We'll be starting this stream now though. This is a regular stream, I do this every week. Okay, let's go. Okay, so we're going to be using this today. This is PDP11. This is an example kindly provided by one of the users on my forum, so I'm going to be trying it out. I have been playing with it a little bit recently. Just I had a few spare hours the other day, and I've actually created a new little program to help me out. I don't know if you can see here. We've got a message here that says assembly error. I intentionally put a bug in the code, and it will now warn me because to see what's actually going wrong, you have to, or at least the only way I know to do it, is you have to check the listing file, a text file that is generated by the assembler. Now, the problem with that was opening up a file, scanning it for the error codes, which appear at the far left. I know this is very small, but there's a small a here. That means assembly error. So I've written a little .NET program to scan the lines, look at the first 4 or so characters and see if there's any letters marking an error code, and then translate those error codes into something human readable on the text command line here. So hopefully that's going to make things a little bit easier for me. So that's what we've got. Now, I've already been playing with this program, as I already said, and I've made a few changes to it, but let's run it in its current state and see what it actually does. Here it comes. So this is the UKNC here, and what we've got here is a scrolling Chibico character just here. We've got a background, and it's going to be quite confusing to see what's actually going on here, but the UKNC actually uses multiple layers, multiple bit planes, sorry, and it's got a red, a green and a blue bit plane, or at least it's got 3 bit planes that can be mapped to red, green and blue. It's not accurate to describe them in the way I just did. Now, it also has 2 processors and 2 memory banks, which is where it gets a bit tricky for me. So this screen has actually been split into 2 parts. Hi there, Rob. Very kind of you to join me. And Geek or Geek, I'm not sure how you want that pronouncing, but it's very kind of you to both join me today. So we've got these 2 layers. Now, this top part here is in the PP processor, the peripheral processor, and this bottom part is also in the peripheral processor. But the middle part has been mapped to conventional CPU memory. So, now, the question I'm asking, though, is where's this blue part? These dark blue bit in the background, where is it? Can't figure out how to change it. Maybe you can't. Maybe it's in peripheral memory. Maybe it's just random data. I mean, it's not changing, but that's a rather interesting question. So that's something I'd love to know the answer to, but whether we'll figure it out is dubious, you know. So this is the program code. Now, where is it? We've got 2 show routines here. So this is the code that's showing my sprite. Now this version is copying it to system memory, and that's putting the Chibico character into the middle of the screen. But this one is writing to the PDP via the PDP's ports, which are 176640 and 176642. These are writing to the PDP PP processor here, and that's putting the second Chibico copy at the top and bottom of the screen. So 2 pieces of test data. Now this second one, I was hoping, shouldn't have closed that earlier, should I? I was hoping this would actually just write to the blue area, because my sort of theory was maybe the blue area was using video memory this area here, this blue bit, but it actually wrote to this top and this bottom, which makes perfect sense. It just leaves me still with the question of where's that blue data coming from. Now, thanks to this example that Ola gave me, we have this quite nice code, but I have been playing with it, and where is it? Oh, it's a different file. It's a different file, I think. So if I open this and PP user, it's not getting their assembly first. It's called the .mac files. I am able to rename them to ASM, and the assembler seems to like it. What it doesn't like is this assembler, because it's a recompilation of the original emulator, original assembler on the R11. Now, it is quite limited compared to the more modern ones, which makes perfect sense because of the memory limitations of the machines it will have originally been executed on. But it does have a limitation of 6 characters in labels, and I think everywhere. I was having some trouble where I was trying to compile a file. It's macro 11 I'm using. See, that's not the right one. That's another one I was trying. I was using PDP, but from what I understand, that's not fully compliant with the original assemblers. So unfortunately, I'm currently not using that. Where's my script file? I think this one's good enough anyway. Yeah, so it's an RT11. Good morning, Oleg. Yes, very kind of you to join me. You were an unbelievable help last week, and I'm sure you will be this time. I'm not sure what the lag's going to be like this week. We were having some major trouble with lag. You were taking a minute to see your own replies or something like that. So I'm not aware of any reason that would happen, but if it happens, I can only apologise. So yeah, missed a comment. It's an RT11 emulator running the Macro 11 assembler, and we're using version 5.5, I believe. It certainly seems to have the same functionality. Now, as I say, the other one was PDP Pi or Python PDP assembler, basically. Now, that one, in some ways, was more modern, but it doesn't support hexadecimal, which so it actually had more functions in some cases than the macro this assembler, and in some cases had less. So I'm going to, at the moment, I would like to use a more modern assembler, but I can't use a more modern assembler that's missing functions of the classic one. So at the moment, my plan is to use the RT11 assembler as my main assembler, because it does seem to work. So that's what my choice is going to be for now, but obviously that choice could change at any time. Now, this PP user program, which I can't take credit for, I didn't write this, I'm just tweaking it. This is what is creating the screen, and it's very much like the Enterprise or the Atari 800 5200, where you create a bank of memory that defines each line within the screen and says what that line of the screen is doing, like where is it in memory, what settings does it have, and so we're able to define the colours at a line level. Now, I've changed this file. Originally, this had 00 here, something like 44, and EE and CC. And if we run this, we've got an error. End directive. I'm running the wrong file. Yeah, I need to compile the main file. So if we run this now, you can see now the blue bits in the background have gone, and we're down to this sort of rather uninspiring red here. So essentially what these are doing is these are mapping the 3 bit planes to a colour within the palette. That's what's happening here. So what I did, if you saw, was I was changing the numbers very slightly so that the third bit plane was coming into play. But by setting the two values to the same thing, I think we're essentially ignoring one of the bit planes. But by me changing them to be different, we're bringing that extra bit plane into play. And Oleg, hopefully you can point me in the right direction on this one. When I've broken it. Oh, that's rather strange. Oh, hang on a minute. Can I undo any further? Well, before, when I did that, I was getting a... There we go. So this blue information, Oleg, I'm assuming this is coming in from the third bit plane, and when my character goes over it here, that the colours are all changing, which again would reiterate that. Now, where is that third bit plane actually held when running this example? Is it in PP memory somewhere? Is it because I can't see anywhere in this example code that is specifying that's specifying a an extra address for that third bit plane. We've got sort of I'm trying to find it. I haven't been through this code very thoroughly. Anyway, so I think it's this one. Is it this one here? So anyway, it's calculating the addresses of the color data, but the color data is only 2 of the bit planes. This program came with a little sample file which I've disabled and filled just with a blank area here, and then I've drawn my Chibico character over the top. This is my Chibico character here, but I can't see where that extra bit plane that's making the blue background come in is coming from, and that's currently the big thing that's leaving me confused. Now, there was one other thing I wanted to have a play with. I did see. I mean, firstly, I wonder what these palette. I see this says palette 7, but I'm not quite sure what that means. So I was going to change that and just see what happened, because we're defining the colours within the line level. One of my phones is vibrating here. Thank you. Okay, well, I changed the palette and it doesn't seem to have done anything, but maybe that's because maybe I'm overriding that by setting colours at the line level, possibly. I don't quite know. Anyway, let's leave that well alone. Now, one thing we can do is if I change this to 1-1 maybe. I forget what I did. Play around with these. They're quite fun. You can see we've now supersized our character, but interestingly, I don't have to change the code that's defining the memory locations. It still looks like it's working exactly fine. So it looks like we're just omitting a big chunk of the screen data over here. So we've not actually really saved any memory doing that. But we do also have a higher resolution mode as well. We've got some quite nice options there. Anyway, that's just one thing I was playing around with the other day. And you can see here it says top 44 lines will be located in video RAM, and by video RAM it means PP memory here. So that's the top and the bottom borders. So I think the main reason for this is going to be to save CPU memory, because the PP and the CPU have a separate bank of memory, and I'm still a bit hazy on this, but my understanding is it's not possible to sort of page flip them around. So if we've used up all our CPU memory, we can't nick a bit of the PP memory for our use. So using the PP memory for the top and bottom of the screen. Okay, no problem, Oleg. Quite understand. I've had plenty of problems with the stream myself. So now, what I was saying, Oleg, is I've changed the configuration of the bit planes so that my understanding is that this blue bit of data here is now the third bit plane. So the character's using 2, but then the third one is also showing as well. And I can't see I don't understand what the data that this is showing is, whether it's some kind of data within the PP memory or some kind of data within the CPU memory, because I'm not defining it anywhere. I'm not aware that the code example is telling the system where that memory is. So I was just wondering if you could advise me where that was coming from. Now, this interested me. Enable writes to all bit planes through registers. That really interests me. I don't know what that means. Disable writes to bit plane 0 through registers. Okay, so it's the PPU RAM, is it? It's still PPU RAM. Okay. Okay, I wasn't sure. Thanks, Oleg. I was aware that typically bitplane 0 was only accessible by the PPU. I just wasn't sure with this code remapping the memory whether that was having an effect on bitplane 0 as well. Okay, that makes perfect sense. So, am I right in saying then that this bitplane mask here, does that have any ability to make the CPU able to access bitplane 0, or is it still literally only the PP that can access that 0-bit plane? Okay, thanks. I have I've seen the translated Russian documents that I found before, and they do mention the different numbers of the PP's ports. So I think I could probably cobble together some code that would access all 3 bit planes from the PP processor. I'd struggle, but I think I could do it. So that makes sense. I can. So if I wanted to access the 3rd bit plane, I would need to write a program for the PP processor like this one, and then execute that, would I? Okay, that's very thank you. Okay. Well, let's open up. Let's see what else we've got here. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll have a go at that when I have some spare time. That's something I would like to try and get a get a sort of 8-color screen running, even if it's. I understand that in terms of CPU power, it's going to be fairly slow, but just as a proof of concept, I'd quite like to see it. So I'll have a go at that later. Okay. So I think this is the program. This is the program we were running last time. Okay, let's just fire it up and just see what it does. So there we go. So this is my simple example, just showing some text to the screen. Now, what I've got here is a list of escape codes. And what I wanted to try is this one here. I want to try and move the cursor because we're going to need that for a locate command at some point. So we need to send a set of codes via this print command here. So if we do locate 10, yeah, okay, that makes perfect sense. Thanks, Oleg. That clears it. I think that clears it all up for me. I think I was having a look at the Chibiakuma's UKNC source code yesterday. I was there's some gold in there, shall we say? It's a very very interesting. I've got it up here. Where is it? Here we go. A lot of it's sort of out of my depth, but so if we go here, so I think this is roughly equivalent of the code we were just looking at, and you've done the excellent descriptions of the registers and what each one does, and that's superb, obviously. But in addition to that, I was having a look at the, I mean, if I go back, oh, no, that's not, I've gone the wrong one there. Go here, and then Bootstrap. There was a simple example, relatively simple example of how to load a file. Here. I haven't tried compiling this, but it looks like this would be a nice little example of how to use the disk system. So that's very interesting. And where is it? Oh, is that blank disk file? That's the empty disk file. And no, not there. Okay, so that's not the one I thought it was. Somewhere around here. I can't find it. Oh, here it is. It's this one. And this I assume is a Windows batch file to make the disk and add all of the files to the disk using this RT11 disk program. So I'm going to have a go with that. At the moment, I'm creating a ROM cartridge, but generally, if I can support more than one way of assembling a file and running it on the final machine, I do so. And it looks like that looks pretty easy to use, so I'll be trying to use that. And the other thing I noticed that's worth looking at if anyone is interested in this is the hardware defs file here. I've got a nice neat list here of all of the ports and what they do. So again, RAD 50. Okay. I don't know what that is. Is that base 50 or something? I'm not sure what that means. Okay. Well, anyway, as I say, I think going forwards, this is probably going to be a help for me. You were mentioning those 3 PPU ports. I can see there's 3 here. I'd have to double check, but I'm assuming those are the ones for accessing the 3-bit planes of the color from the PP processor. Yeah, like that's yeah. I've never had to do that, but I've had to do similar things in the past. AccuSprite editor, I was modifying it last week so that it would create its binary sprite file, and then it would convert the binary sprite file to a Mac file with assembly code for the equivalent binary file, so that I could easily import it into assemblers like this that don't have an inc bin command. Although I did see an inc bin command in your code, so I guess that GNU assembler does support it, because the one I'm using doesn't. But anyway. Yeah, inc bin. That command doesn't work in this RT11 assembler, to my knowledge. Anyway, what were we doing? It was this one, wasn't it? So what I want to do, I'm just going to have to organize my windows here, which is going to be a struggle for me to get this out of the way over here. No, that's not. It's a byte. 33, comma. And then we want a line number here, so 10, comma, 10, comma, R. Is that in the right? Are we case sensitive? I don't think we are. And okay, so I only need the first apostrophe. I kind of thought that was the case, but it's kind of freaking me out. It's kind of it's not what I'm used to. And then we need this needs to be 0 terminated. So, and then if I put this, where's my code? Oh, so much of it. Okay, so I need to move this into R1, and then I need to call print test here, this print routine here, and hopefully this should move the cursor. My phone is vibrating here for some reason. Can you work with Mega Drive? Okay, now I need to reply to that person. Has the cursor moved? Maybe I've done that wrong. Let's try again. I've got this, no, it had. Oh no, maybe it had. I'm just not. I've got this on-screen key presses function here today. I've just got to remember I'm running it, just in case, if I log into my email or something and forget that my entire password's going to be shown on the screen to everyone. It's bound to happen at some point. But as I say, it's I'm looking at it thinking that's brilliant, but it's a recipe for disaster. I'm bound to make a mistake at some point. So if you see me trying to log into something that I shouldn't be, you just start screaming at me in the chat and call me an idiot. So as I say, I'm hoping it's going to help people who are not like things when I press F6 to start the assembler here. I suspect there's some people who don't know those kind of commands, so I thought having an on-screen keyboard would help a bit. Rad 50 allows you to store 3 characters within a single word. I guess it would. Okay. I don't know what characters it's using. It makes perfect sense. It's yeah. Okay. It's not one I've come across. I'll have to look it up. It could be interesting. Anyway, what have I done wrong here then? Because this didn't seem to work. I was expecting this to move us to line 10, column 10, and it did something. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure what it did. I'll try changing the line to 20. Okay. Yeah, A to Z and 0 to 9. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that sounds a very good character set for file names. It certainly does. Yep. Okay, Rob. Very kind of you to join me. I would say thank you. It's evening, isn't it? At the moment in the UK, it's sort of 9-10 o'clock, something like that. So have a good evening. Take care of yourself. Very kind of you, as you frequently do, to join me in these streams, especially when the content of these is a bit vague and meandering. So I'm trying to use this cursor command here. $8:45. Yeah, take care. I'm sure you've got better things to do at that time of the evening than to watch me struggle with the PDP11. So take care of yourself, Rob. Thanks again. Well, I guess these are going to be being treated as octal because I've forgotten to put I have to put a dot at the end of them if they're decimal. So maybe. It's not changing anything. It's not working. Very disappointing. It did look like the character was in. It wasn't. Oh, I've rimmed it out. That would explain why. When did I do that? Well, it's moved. Oh, actually, it looks like something else has happened here. It looks like the screen's been scrolled. Okay. Well, no, Hello World's still in the same position. Oh, that's about. Let's change these to 5 and 5. Okay, I can see an R here. So it looks like there's something wrong with my statement there, because that R shouldn't be visible, should it? And this list says VT100, but it also says VT52, so I thought this was going to work. That just says escape line column. VT compatibility, VT52 compatibility mode. Trying to think that one through. Is that possible? I have no idea what's going on there. Okay, I'm going to stop messing with that. That doesn't seem to be working as I'd kind of expected. Okay, let's run that out. Let's have a look for something else to try out here. So let's go through this file and we'll just try and work out what each bit does here. So we've got SL tab here. Where's that coming from? Okay, so it's defining. Okay, Oleg. Well, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I tend to use a bitmap font and do everything myself with the bitmap font in the end. It's just trying to get started. I thought trying out the VT52 terminal commands and just see what happens. But the trouble is I've never used them. The only time I've really had any experience with them in the past is on the Elan Enterprise, and it was a long time ago. So it's I'm possibly completely using the command wrong, or I'm forgetting something. So I just thought I'd give it a go and just see if it did what the document said. But it looks like something was happening. I'm just not quite sure what it was. But so anyway, so the scanline table is in the PP processor, but the actual lines of the screen, the middle lines of the screen at least, are within the CPU memory, and I think that's shared between both in this case. I'm not quite sure on that. So we're filling in lines 2 to 16, and that's because they're not visible, I think. I can't remember what's the bit command do. Let's have a look. Bit clear. Okay. So this is effectively rounding off the bottom 3 bits. That will be. So that will be. Yeah. Thank you, Oleg. I'd seen that. Your documentation here is excellent. You've really done a superb job. I don't know if I guess it was probably you who translated it. I assume the original will have been in Russian. I've seen the documentation you did in the Chibi Yakima source code. That was incredible. Really great work there. So I'll be going over all of that. I'll be going over it later, trying to incorporate some of it into my source code maybe for some testing. So say things like loading from the disk, it looked like it had a great example for that, and I'll have to look at that Radix 50 thing and figure out what the deal with that is, because I say that's not something I've heard of before. So that's this is the top border here. The main screen will be loaded into the lower 32K of RAM, and as I say, that seems to be shared between the PPU and the CPU, and then the bottom lines in video RAM. Okay. I see here it says disable writes to bitplane 0 through registers, Oleg. What's the reason for doing that here? Because it looks like it's being turned back on somewhere here. Enable writes to all bitplanes. So it seems to be saying that during this part, bitplane 0 had to be disabled. Is that because the area of memory being written to in this section is actually the same area as the bitplane 0 or something like that? So it's calculating. Oh, it's calculating the literal address. This is the relative address of SL table here, and it's adding it to the program counters to calculate the physical memory address. Okay, that makes sense. And then rounding it to have the bottom 3 bits of 0, which makes perfect sense. Yeah, because the definitions are up to 4 words, so that's why it's having to do that. Okay. I see there's something about plus and minus keys here as well. I couldn't work out what that was. I couldn't work out what that was doing, and it might just be a case of my keyboard, my physical keyboard, and the emulator, because I was pressing plus and minus and I didn't see anything happen. I mean, it looks like maybe that's an exit command or something. Oh, okay. Oh, so is this allowing for the processing of key presses? Because as I say, I'm fully aware that the PPU is the peripheral processor and does operations other than just the screen. So is this to keep the key presses being processed by the PPU then? Okay, I understand. it's very interesting. Right, handle keyboard and send codes via the terminal channel. That makes sense. It's a little bit tricky for me to read this because I'm still bluffing my way through PDP11, and this is very early stage stuff here. I need to spend more time with this assembly language. It just unfortunately time's too limited right now. It's so it's very interesting, and it's just you really need to sort of spend a week or two just programming that one assembly language to really get to grips with it and get comfortable with it, because even doing a bit of 6502 after some Z80 or 68,000 after 6502, you make the odd mistake here and there and you type the wrong command and you forget what the odd command does. And here, so you got all these new commands here, and there's no AND command on the PDP11, so common command you're used to having just aren't there, and in some cases there's workarounds for that, and it just means that reading the code is just a little bit harder than on a system like Z80 that I'm more familiar with, unfortunately. So I'm going to go through this code now, and I'm just going to try and understand what it's doing. This is the Chibi Akuma's test code here, so I just want to have a look and see if I can understand what the sections are doing. So this cursor thing is quite interesting. I was reading, I can't remember where I was reading it. I think probably just up here maybe. It looks like the cursor's a sort of hardware cursor, and it's being done with interrupts turning the cursor on at a particular line and turning the cursor off at a particular line, and then within that line you seem to be able, here it is, you seem to be able to select the position within that line to show the cursor. So that's quite an interesting thing. Reminded me a little bit of the Atari 5200 sprites, which are horribly limited things, but so that was quite interesting to look at. Obviously for gaming the cursor's not going to be something you need to worry about, I don't suppose, but it's very interesting anyway. So here we're defining the cursor, which I guess is maybe this bit here. This is the screen, the top bits of the screen resolution. Yeah. Okay, Oleg. Yeah, I have one of my little test programs did need an and I did eventually manage it. It's as I say, it's not a problem, a command not being present like that. It's just that the workaround you have to do, or the alternate way of doing things, is just very alien to someone who's used to Z80 and what have you. I say it's very much like with the 6502, the rotation commands don't work the same as the Z80 or the 68,000 with regards to the way the rotate command always uses the carry on the 6502, but on the 68,000 it doesn't, and on the Z80 there's commands that don't. And at first you sort of thought, oh, that's going to be real trouble for me, and how am I going to cope with that? But all you need to do is very slightly change the way you program, and you won't even notice anymore. But as I say, it just takes time to shift into that way of programming. So it's setting those two bits there, and that's defining the 4-word type. Where's that? Okay, here. What's that cell? Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Select register where the data will be loaded. Okay. So yeah, this all makes some sense. It's just okay. Big C. Control C sort. Okay. Control C inverts source. Okay. Is that's being done by the assembler? Is it? That's not something I've come across. Not in this code. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I know that sounded a silly question. I've got my Idiot's Guide to PDP11 here, and I didn't remember seeing it in that, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm just not quite confident enough to assume that just because I don't know it yet doesn't mean it isn't true. So I just thought I'd just double check. Okay, that makes sense. So that's going to be an easy way to calculate the conversion without having to do it yourself. I saw Oleg in the code here. You've got this CGA font. Is this being done by the hardware or is this being done by software? How's that font being used? Can't see any link to it. By software, okay. No, fine. I was just wondering if there was some kind of way of patching it into the PPU and getting the PPU to do it. If you're interested, Oleg, there is a black and white Chibi Akuma's font in the Spectrum version, and there is even a Russian font. There was at one stage going to be a Russian version of the game, so I've actually got a black and white font with the sort of styling of the Chibi Akuma's game that even supports Russian letters, if that's something that would interest you. I'm assuming the CGA font is just a sort of 1 bit per pixel standard top to bottom character by character thing, so Akka Sprite Editor can already output that anyway. It's just the font format of the Spectrum basically. Okay. Just trying to think what we can try to do now. Okay. 3.5K in size. Is it too big? Okay. Yeah, I haven't looked at it, but I did see that font was just 1 kilobyte. So is it just a size thing then? Is it again that Radix 50 where it's only using a more limited character set? I hadn't thought of that. It's not 255 characters. It's only 96. In a minute. Just a moment. Learn Z80. Is all. I can't remember where the font is. Oh, here it is. This one's only 768 bytes. The I mean, this is the black and white one. The Amstrad CPC one was much bigger because that was 2-bit planes. I can't remember what the format of that one was now. The other thing is, Oleg, it might have it was possibly rounded up because when what was it? It was, I'm trying to remember now. I think there might have been some extra data at the end of the font file, like some sprites or something. Like the bank of memory that did the font also did some other things. I can't remember now. It was a long time ago. But if you want the graphical design of the Chibi Akuma's font, then this file, either font 96 for upper and lowercase or font 64 for just uppercase, that is the same font that Chibi Akuma's on the Spectrum used. But I can't remember how the font files work now on Chibi Akuma's. Unfortunately, it's been so long ago now. So anyway, let's have a look and see what else we can try here. I'm struggling a little bit for choices. Let's try some more of the. Let's try some more of these escape key codes and see. Let's try clear entire screen. Escape bracket 2J. Zoom in a little bit on that for you. So let's move that out of the way. And there's that test code. That's the wrong, sorry, that's the wrong file, that one. So we'll call this term test. My locate command was a bit of a damp squib. Let's try this one instead. So left bracket, autocomplete, 2J. I've still got an old copy running. Okay, so that's interesting. Now, Why have we got LD here? Why? I mean, it's like the commands have been executed out of order or something. Where's the hello world message? Check this. Okay. That clear screen command does seem to work. Let's make a note of that one then. Oh. I just realised one mistake I made. That should have a 0 on the end, shouldn't it? Let's try that again then, see what happens this time. Didn't seem to do anything that time. So my memory dump isn't being shown here, so it looks like I've annoyed the terminal there with that command. It doesn't like it. So, double checking I've got my syntax correct here for loading in the code here. So that is where okay. Unfortunately, I mean this document says VT100/VT52, but I think maybe I should only be using these. And again, fully. I understand, Oleg. I think I think the answer to my questions here are being potentially proved by the lack of success I'm having, in the sense that I'm trying things that don't exist. So again, let's just try this again. 20 dot, comma 20 dot. And again, I mean, it's not, it looks like it's moved back up to here or something. Certainly not. Doesn't seem to have changed the cursor position. I was sort of thinking that. Trying to use that. That looks like it's grayed out anyway. I'm not sure why. Okay, well, let's try a simpler one then. Let's try this escape B here instead. Okay, Oleg, the UKNC documentation on that is, I mean, that's obviously going to be in Russian. Is that something that you think I'm going to have any chance of being able to understand just from the pictures and the code, or is it going to be beyond me? Escape Y followed by 2 digits. Okay, I'll give that a go then. Where's my... Oh, I've forgotten my apostrophes here. That wasn't very smart. So, okay, so that one does work. I've managed to move down a bunch of lines here. Okay. Bring that one out. So escape Y followed by 2 digits. So if we do 10 dot comma 10 dot, I forgot my zero on. I forgot the zero termination, haven't I? Goodness knows what it's been running there. It's probably been. It'll have run this clear command, won't it? Which didn't work. Is that 10 lines down? 1, 2. Looks more than 10. Has it moved it down 10 lines? The digits have to be prefixed with a single quote. That would limit me to 9 then, wouldn't it? Unless there's some kind of separator between the 2 digits. Well, it looks like it's moved to the right. Hang on a minute. Just a moment. Let me it's just out of curiosity. Let's have a look at my other documentation on the Enterprise, because I can't remember which terminal it is, but the Enterprise control codes do this kind of thing. Unfortunately, I can't remember which document it is. There's rather a lot of them. Here, we're onto it. Control codes and escape sequences. So escape equals yx on this one. As I say, I'm not sure to what extent these are remotely standardized and to what extent they're not. They don't seem to match what we saw before. So cursor down on that one is V. Oh no, actually, is that no? That's, I think that's a, I don't know what that is. It doesn't look like an escape code. Code interpreted, but so I guess these are all proprietary, aren't they? Wish I could remember. As I say, I did hear that it mimicked an existing terminal, but I can't for the life of me remember which. Just a moment here. LAN Enterprise Terminal Emulation. That's not very helpful. I get this a lot now. Okay, so it's the different symbols, right? Okay. Yeah, this is something really bugging me with search engines these days. It's like, oh, I totally ignored your search request because I couldn't find very many results for it. So you're probably wrong in what you're searching for. It's like this is almost the majority of my search results now. It's just ignoring what I actually searched for. So thanks for that. Okay, Oleg, I'm not sure either. I would have to assume that it's like a number from 0 to 255, like that, but like 2 characters, and then the ASCII character will be in some way interpreted. Oh, I've still got this one in down here. Those are going to be treated as octal, aren't they? Look at all the way down there. What? I mean, unless 00 is the bottom left of the screen, that looks far too far down the screen there. But I mean, even 8, that's not even 8 characters across there. Okay, well let's try 5.5. See what happens that time. It looks exactly in the same position. cursor down, that looks like it matches. Oh, okay, slightly different then. Misread it. I thought that was escape Y. Move to cursor position CR encoded as single characters. What's 0131 there? Is that the equivalent of the Y? Oh, I need to do that. Where's my octal list here? Oh, where's my ASCII? Yeah, escape Y is 131 in octal then. Okay. Okay. I think next week we'll have to try something a bit that I'm a bit more familiar with, so we make some better progress. I'm really struggling a bit today. Although being 6:31 in the morning, I'm a bit tired in general, so it's a bit unfortunate. Oh, number not correct for current radix. No, that's very true. It's not, is it? Still getting my nice error codes now. Yeah. Oh look, I think the text's a bit delayed. I've already looked it up on the Chibi Akuma's website, so thank you. I've got it figured out, but I'm still struggling with what this. With how this works. So this seems to match what this is saying here. It just says CR encoded as single characters, which you would assume would mean that, oh well, you know, 10, character 10 is moved to cursor position 10, but I'm changing these numbers. I'm changing these numbers here, and I'm not seeing any difference in what's happening on screen. You'd have thought the printing would be moving all over the place. I mean, that's the exact same position as last time. It's moved, but it's not moved in any way that seems to relate to. It seems to relate to the codes that I'm passing it. I don't know what to make of it. Escape J. Let's just see if that works. Uppercase J. Yeah, it is. Oh, that certainly worked. That was quite spectacular. Quite like that. But I noticed that it cleared from up here downwards. So moving of the cursor clearly kind of worked, because it seemed to imply clear screen from cursor onwards. So if our cursor had moved, then that would have cleared from 20,20 or whatever it was. And GemDOS here, extensions. Adding 30. Hang on a minute. Add 31 to get each value. Okay, so that's what we need to do. Okay. So if I do 31 plus 10 and 31 plus 10, and I keep leaving my old emulators open. It doesn't quite look like 10,20, but if I do 2030, 2040, let's try that. Okay, well, I mean, it looks more logical now. It looks like it's working. Let's read this properly. So the upper left corner of the screen is 1, 1. These numbers were sent as ASCII characters, adding 31. Okay, right. Okay, I thought that I possibly incorrectly thought that the way the assembler worked is that if any part of the calculation was decimal, that it treated it all as decimal. But maybe I'm being naive on that. Yeah, okay, yes, I'm sure you're right there. That makes sense. So 10 plus 10. I mean, that looks about right. And then if we do it, so it's y and then x, isn't it? So if we do this as 30, yeah, okay. Okay, so and it looks like this one is worth keeping, but I've just been led astray by that VT100 one, basically. To be honest, when I saw the VT100 documentation, I was kind of amazed by the amount of control codes that it supported. So I guess it's not surprising that actually I can't use really all of them. So, but I say I'm not really planning on using the terminal very much. It was just something that was sufficiently simple that I could cover it in this, very early programming example, because, as I say, I'm not really familiar with the assembly language, let alone the hardware itself. So it's just something that was a bit of fun to play with. Just reading through these, see if any of the others are going to be, reverse line feed and things might be some use. Graphics mode. TOS supports them as well, does it? Anyway. My old notes here. I need to update the Chibi Akuma's website. There is a PDP page, but it's in very early stages, and I need to add a few notes, like only first 6 characters of symbols and file names are used, as I said earlier. So it's something you definitely want to be aware of. The other thing I noticed is there is supposed to be a cheat sheet on the Chibi Akuma's website for PDP, and it doesn't work. The link's broken. It's supposed to be this file here. This is my cheat sheet so far. This is what I've got. But I'll say the link's broken, so need to work on that. Just having a look at the code here. I did notice, if going back to that Chibi Akuma's source, that did seem, because this is built for a disk file, and I did notice there was some kind of header, and I just couldn't remember what the header was like on my test file there. Is it this one? It's going to be one first. No, maybe not that one. There was a header specifying a stack address and things. Is it just that one? Here it is. So we've got like an address here. PDP command. Yes, I know what you're saying, Oleg. I have one. Wait, let's see if we can find it. I was thinking about this just the other day. I can't remember where it is. It's somewhere weird. I try and keep my documentation all nice and neat, and it all goes wrong. But I do have a sort of master lookup somewhere of all the different assembly languages and the equivalent commands on each of them. I think I need to go back to that, and I need to extend it for more rare, because at the moment it's just 6502, 68000 and Z80, but I need to extend that to cover PDP and TMS 9900, because I think it would be more useful then, because people programming relatively common languages aren't going to have so much trouble, but when you start getting into sort of these rarer languages that most people won't have looked at ever, or might have looked at, in many decades before or something, in some people's cases, they're going to, having a idiot's guide cheat sheet there would be a lot more helpful for people. So yeah, I understand. That's a SAV file header, is it? So okay. So that's how you actually build a SAV file, is it? that you would convert into the cartridges and things. Vaguely thinking about it, I think I read the R11 documentation. Maybe I saw something similar in that. Okay. Well, so GNU doesn't know how to build save files. Well, I mean, it's worth knowing. I often find it's a lot more. I find it a lot more satisfying in some cases to make my own headers for files and things anyway. Just from the point of view of, well, you know, if tomorrow I decide to stop using Windows and start using a completely different operating system and I can't use any of my current tools that I'm relying on, if I know how the file formats actually work and create my own files, then I can write my own tools. So that's in some ways, doing that is not necessarily such a bad thing. Out of curiosity, Oleg, why is it that you've decided to use the GNU assemblers rather than the R11 one that you sort of suggested to me? Is it that is it that you've got other code that you're wanting to import in that's too complex for the R11 one? Because the R11 one seems fine for my purposes at the moment. Or is it just that you're used to using it for other programming and it's kind of better the devil you know kind of thing? Here it is. So here's the multi CPU cheat sheet here that I'd started working on. Is it just the character? Is it just the limitation of the characters in the symbols then? Okay. Okay, that would make sense, I guess. Yeah. So what I think I need to do though, when I get a chance, is add to this some more columns for PDP11 and TMS 9900. So it's you can see I very early stages started on 8086 and ARM in this list, but it's something that I think could be very interesting for people. So the Z80 to 68,000 one, not so much, but when you get into more rare languages or much more modern languages, you might get someone who's done some ARM work, understands the ARM instructions, and is curious about the Z80. So maybe it could be useful for people doing that kind of thing as well. But yeah, you can. I'm sure you can see me repeatedly fluffing up accidentally using Octal when I mean to use decimal and vice versa. But I kind of it's the quirks of these things that are kind of the fun of using them. I'd say the main you did suggest before I could just switch the Radix to Radix 10 and that would save me having to use Octal altogether. But it's the fascination of seeing that this old system is so dependent on Octal when Octal is something I've simply never come across in my career almost entirely, with the exception of the permission codes in Linux for files and things. That's the only time I've ever even been really aware of Octal. Okay, yeah, okay, it makes perfect sense, Oleg. It's very sensible reason to be using it. As far, yeah, I get. Is the R11 one not native to Linux then as well? Yeah, so yeah, that's all very logical. I mean, for me, I came from Amstrad CPC assembly, and the Z80 assembler, the GNU, I can't pronounce it, the GNU assembler or new assembler. I don't know if that's more accurate pronunciation. The assembler for the Z80, it was very, very strange and quite frustrating. So, and was it 68,000? There was one where I was having to convert the code and I couldn't make head nor tail of it. So for me, I'm sticking. I started using Vasm because that's got a Linux assembler as well. Although I use Windows at the moment, I do use with Linux as well to some extent. So I try and use both things that are supported on both. But now that I'm sort of branching out into these really quite alien assembly languages like SPC 700, the sound chip of the Super Nintendo, and TMS 9900, it's becoming less of a choice of this is the assembler I'd like to use to, well, I just need anything that can support it. And with R11 it was like, well, with Macro 11, sorry, it was like, well, I can't understand how to even get things to compile. I'd have been struggling around for decades. Okay, yeah, that's a good reason to use the GNU assembler then. But say, yeah, I think I'd have really struggled to get that R11 assembler working. The command line, I'm still looking at it. I still don't understand it. The one you provided me. I mean, I don't know how that. I mean, I'm assuming is that the macro assembler with the switch list enabled? I don't understand that. I'll have to. The RT11 manual is enormous. I have read it, but it's very complicated. So I'm really glad you were kind enough to provide me with a few samples that were able to get me started a little bit faster. And let's say I've now added a little tool. Where is my? Spare me a moment here. I've now added this C# application, and that will scan the list file and show the errors to the screen, which is helpful. Yeah, I came across the file name limitation by accident the other day. I was trying to compile a program and it didn't work, and I was like, that's odd. And so I kept renaming the file, and I kept taking a few letters off the file until it compiled. And it's like, I can see what's happened there. I've even put the comment in here just because I know people are going to get caught out by it. So yeah, but I was quite happy. I made this little C# program to just scan the list files for any error messages and show them to the screen, which is just a simple little thing. It's going to really help me out going forwards. But I think at the moment I'm happy with our RT11. It's macro 11 assembler for my use because, as I say, the PDP11, it seems like it's missing some stuff. The hexadecimal didn't seem to work, and you know, if the RT11 one works well enough, I think I should use it. I don't want to deviate massively from the authentic syntax because I don't want the tutorials to be unrealistic. I want them to cover things that people are likely to come across or realistically use. So if I can use the original assembler, even if a very late edition of the original assembler, then that would be more authentic, I think, and that should be something I should try and do. But obviously I want to do these tutorials next year, but at the moment I'm just struggling for the time to properly research everything. I'm going to be doing a lot of work on this kind of thing over Christmas and try and get some more stuff done. I've got some of the 8086 tutorials and the ARM tutorials written already, the source code at least, and then I can do the documentation on the top of that. But I just need to spend more time on new assembly languages and writing new tutorials. But at the moment I'm just still flat out working on the old systems like the 68000 and the 6502. So I don't have it. Unfortunately, I can't put the time in. Anyway, It's 6:53 here in Japan, AM of course, so I'll be going to work soon. So I think we'll wrap up this stream. I have to say a big thank you to Oleg again, who's been extremely helpful, saving me in many cases. Thank you for everyone who's joined in though. I hope this has been of some interest to you. I'm not sure what your reasons for viewing a stream like this is. Maybe you're just curious to see what it's like, and I hope you found some entertainment in it if that's what you wanted to see. Oh grief. So 1 a.m, extremely kind of you to catch a stream that's as late as that. I can't say thank you enough. Anyway, take care of yourselves. I hope you have a good afternoon or evening, or in the case of 0:53 in the morning, a good sleep. Thanks for watching today, and goodbye.